Standard 10th, Political Science, Chapter number 1, Working of the Constitution. Constitution means? Yes? Anyone? Constitution means the fundamental principles on which our government works. The textbooks of political science till now helped us to take an overview of the local government, the values and the philosophy of the Indian Constitution, as also the governing structures created by the Constitution and India's place in international relations. The Indian Constitution has declared its objective to establish a secular, democratic republic. The objective of Indian Constitution is that we want our country to be a secular, democratic republic. Secular means we do not want to differentiate between the religions. It is not religion-based, caste-based. We are taking everyone as equal. We are treating everyone as equal. Everyone has a democratic right in this country. Also, it has made extremely important provisions to ensure that the citizens get justice and their freedom is protected. Not only the physical freedom, but the freedom of speech, etc. The Indian Constitution is seen as the means through which a progressive, developed society based on social justice and equality will be established. The world sees our Indian Constitution as the ideal one, and the other countries are needed to follow what we are practicing in our country. The Indian Constitution came into force on 26th January 1950. Please remember, India gained independence in August 1947, but the Indian Constitution came into force only on the 26th January 1950. And since then, the Indian government has been working in accordance with the principles of the Constitution. We are following that Constitution. In this chapter, we will be taking a brief overview of the wide-ranging nature of Indian democracy, important changes that have taken place in its political process, and steps that have been taken to establish social justice and equality. How we are trying to improve our democratic process, that is all we will be learning in this chapter. This review will primarily focus on three main areas: democracy, social justice, and our judicial system. Starting with democracy, political maturity. Democracy does not merely imply a representative structure. Just keeping a structure in place does not mean that we are a democratic country. The essence of representative system is to integrate the principles of democracy in actual practice. We need to implement them on the ground in our life. Once this is done, democracy becomes an integral part of the political life of the whole society. Accordingly, the Indian people have direct representation in the parliament, state legislature, and local government. How do we have representation? We are given the rights to elect our government. Holding free and fair elections at regular intervals is an important indicator of India's successful democracy. Every government that is elected can run for 5 years in India, unless it is a combination of various political parties and the parties refuse to support the government anymore. Only in that case there are re-elections. Otherwise, every government can last for 5 years. The increasing participation of the people in the political process and political competition shows that Indian democracy has become successful to a great extent. Anyone can take part in the political process. Not only political process, anyone can take part in the political competition to become a minister. Right to vote. The Indian constitution had made the provision of right to vote for adults. Now the definition of adults keeps on changing with the passing of time. In the pre-independence period, several provisions existed which restricted the right to vote. There were many laws which were not allowing every citizen of India, every adult citizen of India to vote. All such provisions were cancelled after independence, which means those provisions were made by the British. And the Indian constitution guaranteed adult suffrage by giving the right to vote equally to both men and women above the age of 21 years. Suffrage or suffrage is the right to vote in the elections, and for Indians the age limit is 21 years. Anyone of 21 years or above gets the right to vote. The voting age was later reduced from 21 to 18, which gave opportunity of political participation to the young generation in India. The definition of adult was changed from 21 to 18 to take part in the voting. The rights were given to everyone now, the younger generation now. Such provisions have made India the largest democracy in the world. India has the largest number of voters compared to any democratic nation on earth. This change is not only quantitative but also qualitative, as new political parties are emerging with the active support of young voters. If any political parties has only senior men or women as its members, they will definitely not understand the needs of the younger generation. Hence, the political parties are also improvising, and newer political parties are also coming up with the view to keep the younger generation as a participant in the process. These parties represent various expectations of people and compete with each other in the political sphere. Moving on to decentralization of democracy. What is decentralization of democracy? Decentralization of power is central to democratic government. Decentralization controls the misuse of power. The political parties and the ministers are restricted from misusing their power, and it also creates opportunities for political participation for the common people, which means the democratic rights are not only centralized, not only limited to the political members, it is also available to the general public. The directive principles of state policy include the provisions for democratic decentralization. It informs or it mentions how the process of democratic decentralization should be done. One such important provision is regarding empowering the local self-government to make genuine democratic governance a reality. Local Gram Panchayats and Nagar Parishads, they are also given the powers to make genuine democratic governance a reality. After independence, several attempts were made towards democratic decentralization. It's a continuous process. As the governments keep on learning about the various roadblocks in democracy, newer laws are brought into place. One such important attempt is the 73rd and the 74th Amendment. Amendment means the change to the Indian Constitution, which gave a constitutional status to local self-governing institutions and also increased their powers. Local self-governing institutions means they are keeping an eye on themselves, like the local Gram Panchayats. Their powers were increased so that the decentralization of democratic powers becomes a reality. Now, some seats are kept reserved for women to increase their participation in political process. Why? Some seats are kept reserved for weaker sections of the society so that they can get a share in political power. Why? The State Election Commission has been established. Do we know the reason for this? The 11th and 12th schedule was added to the Constitution. All these statements, the reason is to increase the power, to give more power to the people. For ages, women were dominated by men. Hence, the reservation of women has come into the political process. The rich sections of the society have always been dominant on the weaker sections. Hence, to increase their political participation, reservations were kept for the weaker sections as well. To keep a strict eye on what is going on during the elections, before and after the elections, the State Election Commission was established, and hence the Constitution schedule was also amended.